Tell me something that you learned about mental health that significantly improved your mental health. I'll go first. I learned that I had to reparent every aspect of my childhood that did not receive its proper needs. And as I'm growing older, I see myself as a computer that needs new programming.
Okay, so I've been in therapy for 3 years. I've had a mental health blog for 5 years. I've written a lot about mental health, so I have a lot to say about this. Number one is if you want to try therapy, counseling, or any sort of stuff like that, you don't have to wait until you're bad enough to seek that help. You can start today. Number two is therapy won't fix all of your problems. Number one, you're not something that needs to be fixed. You're not a computer, you're a human being. Number two, it's more like a self-care tool, so it's one part of your self-care routine. That means you need to do the work outside of therapy as well as inside of therapy. Number three is healing is a lifelong journey. There's not a finish line. You're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days, and it's okay for it to fluctuate like that. It's totally normal. Number four is you're not alone. I know it feels like you're alone, but I swear to you, the more that you talk about your story, the more you realize that there's so many people out there who feel exactly like you two, and they're there to support you.
For people who are in North America, you are now white, and your family is an immigrant family, and you yourself might be an immigrant, you should not see a white therapist, a white psychiatrist, a psychologist. No, absolutely not. It will ruin your entire mental health. I highly recommend you to read the story of Nathan Reddy. He is South Asian. Due to the lack of acknowledgement of global culture and background, the mental health resources or services are still centered around white people who do drugs. You should see a therapist coming from similar cultural background comparing to you. My friend Catherine started a nonprofit in Canada. Her organization for a safer space now offers free services. Please check it out. Hope it helps.
Okay, so I have three and they all have to do with boundaries. First, no is a complete sentence. Second, you don't have to explain yourself after you say no. And the only people that'll be mad about your boundaries are the ones that benefited from you having none.
Let me give you something, and you've got to stay with this one because a lot of society will not enjoy what I'm about to say, but it needs to be said. Why? Because I care about you. Now, depending on your levels of consciousness, which basically is that perspective that you see, hear, and feel things, there's going to be different answers to this, but I'll give you the first one. The first stage, which was for me when I was having severe anxiety, walking into uni and that kind of thing, is that my anxiety was an emotional guidance system telling me something that my brain wasn't listening to. So, for example, you may be going out too much, you may be hanging around people that actually your spirit knows aren't good for you or chatting shit about you behind your back. The anxiety is there to serve you. See it as service, tune in with it and get out your own head. Your emotion of anxiety or depression isn't actually real. What's real is a story you're playing on replay from a childhood trauma or an event which is going round and round and round. You need to become the witness of your emotion.
Ooh, I really wanted to talk about this one. One of the most beneficial things I did for my mental health was take myself out of the competition. What competition am I talking about? Life's competition. Life is a competition. If you think it's not, you're lying to yourself, okay? Stop wearing, eating, going places, even getting accomplishments to compete with somebody, to try to win at something. It's not what it's for. Buy, eat, wear, drive, get what you want. Get the accomplishments for yourself and yourself only, okay? You come into this world alone, you're gonna leave alone. Do it for yourself. And do it for Allah, but do not do it to compete. If you ever want to be the envy of somebody else, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. If you're trying to win, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You should never want to be the envy of somebody. Do it for the right reasons. I promise you'll be so much happier, and stop competing. Stop competing.
You can't control the way you feel. You can only control the way that you respond to how you feel.
If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment.
That there is such a thing called toxic positivity, and it can be extremely harmful. When you force yourself to practice gratitude or be happy when really all you're feeling is depressed, nervous, anxious, or sad, the only thing that you're doing is invalidating yourself. Emotions aren't here to be changed, overridden, or ignored. They're here to let us know what needs to be addressed so that we can heal and come back stronger.
Hurt people hurt people. And your unhealed trauma isn't an excuse for giving other people trauma. It wasn't your fault they were broken.
This book, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, really great book. Talks about trauma.
And it basically talks about how we're each these individual walking universes with all these systems going on. And at the center of the universe is yourself. Yourself is who you actually are. It's that untamed essence that's calm, curious, and indestructible. No one can mess with it. No one can touch it. But we're human, and we go through life, and we feel fear, shame, guilt, regret. Those are called exiles. Now, your exiles need just as much love, care, and attentiveness as your happiest and most joyful, proudest moments. The more you can show love to what you hate most about yourself, the better chance you have of actually being and living out yourself.
You only get what you make space for. To clarify even further, you can only have things when you make space for those things. And I know it sounds like very spiritual, it's just a fact across the board. You only get what you make space for. How can you have the love of your life if you're focused on someone who cannot even meet the bare minimum of your needs? How can you have friends who love you and loving relationships, the kind that you've always dreamed of, if you're around people who aren't those things? You're giving energy to things that aren't matching the frequency you want to be at. Like, you only get what you make space for. Let the unhealthy go.
Having a sense of urgency is what keeps us disconnected. This is one of the tools of white supremacy. It makes it so that we don't have the time to connect on a deeper level. So it doesn't allow for time for reflection, discernment, or even real repair. If we meet everything with a sense of urgency, we're exhausted all the time. And that is what results in us being obedient and not challenging the norms and not challenging these oppressive forces that we have to encounter on the day-to-day basis. Being busy doesn't serve us. I think it feeds into that feeling of anxiety that many of us struggle with, and even depression, because we feel like we're not doing enough and that we're not enough. If it can wait, then it's gonna wait.
God, I have a lot to say. When you cut toxic people, toxic relationships, toxic friendships out of your life, oh my God, you are so much happier. You are a direct reflection of the people that you surround yourself with. And if you're surrounding yourself with these people who make you feel like shit 24/7, you're gonna feel like shit. They're a lazy bum. They don't have a job. They don't do anything. You're a reflection of that. That's a part of you. That's part of who you are. When you surround yourself by people who love you and uplift you and support you and want to see you do well, oh my God, your mental health will never be better. I have cut out so many people in my life who have just this negative aura around them, who just gossip 24/7, negative everything. It makes such a big difference. It makes a huge difference. Because I noticed, if you're going to talk shit about that person like that, how are you talking about me behind me?
I learned not to judge people. Growing up as a kid, my grandmother was a paranoid schizophrenic. And in the summers, all the grandkids would hang out. We played, we had fun, we enjoyed each other. But more than anything else, as I grew older, I learned not to judge people. And be careful who you go off on, because they may be just a little bit more crazy than you, and it's genetic.
If it's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. If cleaning your room is too big a task, then picking up 5 things is better than ignoring the entire mess. If you can't bring yourself to do a full workout, then going for a 5-minute walk is better than sitting on the couch. If eating a whole meal is too much, then grabbing a handful of shredded cheese and half a tomato is better than not eating at all. If you can't clean the whole kitchen, just wipe down the countertops. Splashing your face with water is better than not washing. Handing in the assignment late is better than not at all. 2 minutes of meditation is better than none. You don't have to do things perfectly, and half-assing things is better than no-assing them.
That what you tie the value of your ego around will drastically determine the outcomes in your life. For a long time in my life, my ego was tied around the fact that I needed to be right. And this led to a lot of things, like broken relationships. It led to procrastination. It led to passing up opportunities that I could have actually tried for because I didn't think that I was good enough and I didn't want to try and look bad. And it ultimately just broke me down to a place of nothing. Now, you can't get away from your ego, so you have to tie it to something that's valuable or at least empowering. So for me, I changed that. And now my ego is tied to the fact that I'm a learner and I know nothing. So when I make mistakes now, I actually get really excited because it means that I'm on to something. The only time you fail is whenever you start to make an excuse for why you failed and not looking at it as something like a bridge that's going to get you to where you need to be. The obstacle in the path always becomes the path with this kind of a mentality. It's empowering. So tie your ego around something that's empowering and it'll change your life.